The cranberry sauce hadn't even made it halfway around the table when I reached across and gently touched Levi's hand. "Thank you, mijo, for the 500. It helped me get everything ready." He paused mid-bite fork, hovering in the air. His brow furrowed. 500, he repeated slowly. "Mom, I didn't send you 500. I sent 200,000 last week. For the roof, the plumbing, everything. And I've been sending you 50,000 every month since May." The clink of metal echoed. Carmen's fork hit her plate. Her eyes widened like I'd never seen before, color draining from her face. My hands, resting on the tablecloth, began to tremble. 200,000, I blinked. "No, baby. Just the 500 this month, like usual." His voice turned sharp. "What are you talking about? That's not usual. I've been transferring 50 every month. I even added a bonus 200 grand for the holidays. For the house." He pulled out his phone, tapped rapidly. I watched the screen glow on his face, then darken, with something I couldn't name. "Here, look." I leaned forward. There it was, all in bold: transfer complete. 50,000 in November, 50,000 in October, 200,000 just last week. But the destination wasn't familiar. It wasn't my account. Carmen stood up, knocking her napkin to the floor. "Levi," she said quickly. "There must have been a mix-up, maybe the routing." "Whose account is this?" he asked, his voice low, now dangerous. I didn't move. I couldn't. He tapped again, then looked at her. "Carmen Allen. That's your maiden name." She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The room had already spoken. I sat back, heart pounding, staring at the plate of roast I'd seasoned with every last cent I had. Levi stared down at his phone like it had betrayed him. Carmen was pale, motionless, and just like that, the air changed. He didn't look at her when he asked, "How long have you been doing this?" Her silence gave him everything he needed to know. Levi's fingers moved fast over the screen, scrolling with urgency, his jaw tightening with every swipe. There, he muttered, "Confirmed, 200,000. Sent last Thursday." He tilted the screen toward me. "And look, 50,000 every month." I've never missed one. I stared, breath caught in my chest. I hadn't seen anything beyond the 500. No notice, no alert. Just a quiet deposit that barely covered the groceries for the week. He frowned. "But this can't be right." He tapped again, slower this time. A pause. His brow sank deeper. Then he squinted. "Wait, this account, this isn't yours." My heart stopped. He turned the screen to Carmen. "Why is the money going to a Carmen Allen account?" Her mouth parted, then shut. She reached for a glass of water, but didn't drink it. "Levi, that's just an administrative thing. It's still for your mom. I was managing it. We talked about it, remember?" His voice lost its warmth. "No, we didn't." Carmen blinked fast. "You told me to help her, that it was easier if we set up a joint transfer." "I thought you thought." What he said, his voice sharper now. "That I wouldn't check, I could feel the air shift." A silence so tense it pressed against my skin. I didn't say a word. Not yet. I wanted to see what Levi would do, what Carmen would say now that the numbers were staring back at her. "You've been filtering the money," he asked, each word colder than the last. Carmen looked at me for the first time that evening. Not with kindness, not with guilt, just calculation. I didn't think she needed all that she said finally. She said she was fine. She always says she's fine. My chest tightened, but I stayed still. Levi stared at her, stunned. "So you decided she didn't need her own money?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. And in that moment, Levi turned to me, not with confusion anymore, but with something else entirely. Levi stepped away from the table, holding his phone like it might bite him. His eyes didn't blink as he scrolled through the list of transactions, each one labeled with neat little dates. Each one meant for me, for Mom's peace, he whispered. That's what I always told the bank. Every month without fail. I didn't say a word. I just watched him come undone one tap at a time. She said it was handled. He continued, not even looking at her. Carmen always said, "Don't worry, it's handled." She showed me screenshots. He stopped. His fingers slowed, and they were fake. I sat still. My hands rested quietly on the table, the same hands that scraped together enough for chicken broth last winter when the pipes froze and the faucet wouldn't stop leaking. I'd fixed it with duct tape. Soup had come from a gas station tin, the cheapest brand. I never thought to question Levi. I thought he was just sending what he could. I thought he was still the boy who used to cry when the dog got sick. "Mom," he finally said, his voice softer now. "Why didn't you say anything?" I looked up and gave him the truth. Mothers don't like asking twice. He nodded slowly, like the words cut through the static in his mind. Then Carmen's voice sliced into the moment. "We needed the money," she said sharply. "It was just sitting there. And she doesn't even know how to use online banking." The room turned to stone. Levi's head snapped toward her. I saw it in his face, the break. The math of trust unraveling right there in his eyes. Carmen went on trying to fix what couldn't be undone. "You said we were saving for a bigger place. I was just managing it better." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His silence said everything, and mine matched his. Because what do you say when the roof above your head is held up by someone else's lies? My hands didn't move. Not to fold the napkin, not to reach for my glass. They just sat there still, like the air before a storm. Carmen's voice broke the silence, sharp and rattled. "She's old," she said, waving her hand like I wasn't in the room. "She doesn't understand how investments work. I kept the money safe." Levi didn't blink. "You opened a second account in your name," so she snapped. "You think she needs 200 grand for that house for canned peas?" I watched her. I didn't flinch. I didn't even raise my head, but Levi did. I could feel his eyes tracking back across years of birthdays I spent alone, across winters when the heat barely worked. He had seen the porch half sinking into the soil. He had walked through my kitchen with its chipped floor and half-working fridge. He had smiled when I wore the same old coat year after year, never once asking why I never changed it. He saw it now. "You made my mother poor," he said, each word like iron, "so you could feel rich." Carmen's breath hitched, but she didn't cry. Not yet. Maybe because she realized then he wasn't speaking out of anger. He wasn't yelling. He was stating a fact. "You took her dignity," he added, still quiet. "And you called it budgeting." She stood straighter, reaching for justification that wouldn't come. "You wanted me to help manage things. You gave me access. I gave you trust," he said. "And you gave her shame." The silence didn't return. It shifted, became something heavier, something final. Carmen's eyes flicked to me like I'd say something to help her. But I didn't. I kept my hands where they were. I had already lived through the silence. And Levi, he was just beginning to understand it. There was a knock at the door. Soft, almost unsure. I already knew who it was. Miss Carter stepped in, holding a pie wrapped in foil, her holiday sweater speckled with flour. She smiled, then froze. Carmen stood stiff in the corner. Levi was silent, phone still in hand, and the air was thick enough to slice. Miss Carter looked at me, then back at Levi. "Should I come back later?" He shook his head gently. "No. Please stay. Just one question." She hesitated. Levi stepped closer. Voice low. "Has my mother ever asked you for help?" My stomach twisted. I wanted to stop her, but I didn't. Miss Carter looked at me again, eyes soft with apology. "She borrowed for her medication last month. Said her pension was late again." I looked at my hands. My nails still had detergent stains from when I washed the floor. "I also covered her heating last winter," Ms. Carter added. "Said the electric bill came too high and she didn't want to bother you." Carmen laughed under her breath. "Seriously, this is getting dramatic." But Levi didn't move. He was staring at me, but his eyes weren't soft anymore. Then he turned slowly toward her. "Give me the keys." Carmen blinked. "What?" "The car, the safe, the house account. Now." She looked at him like he'd spoken another language. "You're not thinking straight. Don't make me ask twice." That last word was louder and heavier. Ms. Carter took a step back, gripping the pie tighter. Carmen's face fell lips, trembling. She knew. She had already lost. But I didn't speak. I had nothing left to explain, because the truth had already arrived, wearing flour on her sleeves, holding a pie, and carrying my dignity for me. "You're overreacting," Carmen snapped, folding her arms tight across her chest. "This is absurd." Levi didn't flinch. He didn't yell. He just walked to the front door, turned the knob, and held it open. "You're not staying here tonight." She blinked, caught between disbelief and insult. "You're kicking me out on Christmas Eve." He didn't answer that. He didn't need to. Carmen's eyes darted to me, maybe expecting me to step in. But I just sat there, my tea cooling in my hands. She tried again, voice sharper this time. "I'll take the car. I'll call my lawyer." Levi looked at her, not like a husband, not even like a man betrayed. He looked at her like someone who had finally done the math and saw the decimal that never lined up. "You touched what was sacred," he said quietly. "You're not coming back from that." And just like that, the room lost its last shred of pretense. Carmen stood still for a breath, then grabbed her coat from the hook. She didn't speak again. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She just slammed the door so hard that one of the picture frames rattled against the wall. I didn't cry either. I lifted the cup to my lips and took a long, quiet sip. It had gone lukewarm, but it tasted like peace. Levi stayed standing for a long while. Then he came over and sat next to me, his hands folded like a boy waiting for permission to speak. "I thought you were okay," he said softly. I nodded. "That was the lie, Levi," I replied, setting my cup down. "I told it too." He didn't respond, just reached out and rested his hand gently over mine, and I let it stay there. The morning air was sharp, but the house felt lighter without her voice echoing through the walls. Levi showed up in the kitchen with his laptop tucked under one arm and 2 coffees in the other. He set everything down and opened the screen without a word. "I'm transferring it," he said. "Everything she touched. Every dollar. It's yours." I watched his fingers hover over the keys, ready to undo months of lies with a few taps. But I reached across and laid my hand on his arm. "No," I said gently. He blinked, confused. "No, I don't need it all at once," I told him. "I just want the roof fixed before the rains come, and maybe a proper oven one that doesn't need a prayer to preheat." His mouth opened like he wanted to argue. "But it's yours," he said. I nodded. "That's why I get to decide how to use it." He looked at me for a long moment, something flickering in his expression. Pride, maybe, or regret. Then he closed the laptop and leaned back in his chair. Later, we sat out on the porch, bundled in old coats. The same ones we used to wear when he was a boy, watching the neighborhood kids ride their bikes in the cold. He didn't talk much, but he didn't need to. For the first time in years, the silence between us wasn't tight or strained. It wrapped around us like a blanket, not heavy, just enough. I sipped my coffee slowly, listening to the sound of the wind brushing through the dry branches. There were no apologies left to say, no speeches needed. Just the quiet rhythm of something slowly mending itself, not in a rush, not with noise. Just in the way trust always returns when you finally stop begging for it. The ceiling no longer wept when it rained. 2 weeks after that long Christmas night, the contractors came early with their boots and tool belts and purposeful noise. They patched what had sagged, sealed, what had splintered and painted over years that had settled quietly into the walls. The porch didn't groan when I stepped on it anymore. And the new heater it hummed with a soft dignity like it knew not to speak unless spoken to. Levi started coming by every second Sunday. Alone. Sometimes we drank coffee and talked. Sometimes we drank coffee and didn't. He'd check on the back shed, rattle a loose hinge or sweep the steps without saying a word. I always set an extra chair on the porch beside mine. He never asked why. I never explained. One morning, as the steam rose from his cup and caught the winter sun, he asked, "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I looked at him for a long moment, then turned back to the yard. The same garden beds I once tried to grow tomatoes in still sat stubborn and bare. "Because mothers want to believe their children don't forget them," I said. He didn't answer right away. Just held the mug closer like he needed the warmth more than I did. That afternoon, I found him in the living room sliding my old armchair across the floor, careful not to scratch the new boards. He angled it just right next to the window with the strongest light. "The view's better here," he said. I didn't argue. I sat down and leaned back. The chair didn't creak like it used to. The silence in the room wasn't hollow anymore. And for once, the light came in from the outside, not just from memory. The envelope came on a Thursday. Plain, white, nothing special. But when I opened it, the words stood out like sunlight in winter. Name on file, updated. Direct deposits confirmed. Everything was in my name now, no middlemen, no detours. I read it 3 times, then folded it neatly and placed it in the drawer beside my wedding ring, the same one Levi used to spin on the kitchen table as a boy pretending it was a flying saucer. I didn't tell anyone about the envelope. When neighbors asked about Carmen, I just said, "She went home." Nothing more. No bitterness. No long stories. Just a closed door and a lock I didn't have to use anymore. That Sunday, Levi came by earlier than usual. He walked in with a pot of stew, a little too proud of himself. "I tried your recipe," he said. "Mostly. It was too salty. The potatoes were mush, the meat overcooked. But I ate every spoonful like it was gold. Because this time he stayed. He didn't rush. He didn't scroll through his phone or check emails between bites. He asked about the heater. He asked if I needed more light bulbs. He even offered to repaint the back room come spring. And when I washed the dishes, he dried them without being told where the towels were. We didn't talk about Carmen. We didn't need to. The silence between us was no longer full of missing things. It was full of what had finally come back. Later, when he kissed my forehead before leaving, I didn't say thank you. I just said, "Drive safe." He smiled at that, and I stood at the door long after he was gone, watching the quiet settle back in, not heavy this time, but familiar. The kind of quiet that lets you breathe. The house doesn't creak the same way anymore. Maybe it's the new insulation. Maybe it's the way I breathe now, slower, steadier. I bought a small radio last week. One with knobs, not buttons. The kind that takes a second to warm up like me. It plays old songs in the background while I fold laundry or water the little fern I picked out at the market. I named it Maggie. She doesn't need much, just light and quiet. I also bought myself a new quilt. Not too bright, not too expensive, but soft. Softer than anything I've had in years. I wrap it around my knees when I sit in my chair, the one Levi moved beside the window. The next time he visits, I make the stew. I don't tell him the recipe, don't tease him about his version. I just serve it warm with bread and quiet. We eat without words. He doesn't mention Carmen. I don't ask. There's no need to dig through the ashes when the fire's out. After dinner, he helps wash the dishes again. His hands move slowly, deliberately, like he's trying not to break anything. Before he leaves, he stands by the doorway for a while. Doesn't fidget, doesn't rush. Then he leans in, kisses my forehead and says, "I see you now, Mom." I don't answer. I just nod and press the door shut after he steps outside. No anger in my chest, No ache in my throat, no gloating in the silence. Just the soft hum of the heater, the low buzz of the radio, the gentle creak of a home that no longer echoes. And me sitting with a full bowl in front of me, a full heart behind my ribs, and no one looking past me anymore.